The National Guard driving trucks? The White House is already having to walk back those comments from the president. An official telling CNN that the administration is, in fact, not pursuing the use of the National Guard on a federal level to help with the supply chain disruptions. Joining me right now is Florida Congressman Michael Waltz. He is also a member of the House Armed Services Committee. He is the only of Green Beret Commander in Congress, and it is an honor to see you again, Congressman. Thanks very much for being here. What are your thoughts on what you just heard from the president, using the National Guard to drive trucks to affect the supply chain disruptions?
Yeah, Maria, I'm still serving in the National Guard, and sadly, I think the commander-in-chief needs a bit of a lesson on how the National Guard works. The National Guard works for the governors. Unless he's prepared to do a federal or national mobilization to deal with this, they don't work for him. They work for the governor. Secondly, they have been completely worn out over the last couple of years between all of the COVID mobilizations, their overseas mobilizations, wildfires, hurricanes. We have to stop treating the National Guard, as some kind of Band-Aid for the issue of the day. And then thirdly, how about stop these ridiculous policies that keep flowing out of Washington, incentivizing people not to work between federal stimulus checks, state stimulus checks, federal unemployment, state unemployment. If you have children, they've tripled the child tax credit that they now want to make permanent. That's the problem in incentivizing people not to work. But then, the final thing, a lot of the National Guard truck drivers are truck drivers in their civilian jobs. You're going to be robbing Peter to, pay for Paul.
That's right.
It's just ridiculous, Maria. And clearly, somebody in the White House, had to walk it back.
That's what's outraging me. I mean, to look at the National Guard when we're already questioning readiness in our military, and I've got to ask you about the readiness. Look, let me just point out that in President Biden's budget, which is really Bernie Sanders' budget, there is not a dime additional for the Defense Department. There's no additional money for the defense budget. And our adversaries continue to rise. China has now, we understand, according to reports, conducted not one, but two hypersonic weapon tests this summer. Congressman, these tests apparently shocked and surprised our U.S. military intelligence officials. Will you speak to that, the importance of this, the threat that this is, and whether or not our military readiness is up to the job right now?
Yeah, Maria, I was just actually out at the Space Command being briefed on this. I won't get into the details, but I can tell you this is a Sputnik moment. This was such a leap for how they were able to conduct this test. So think of it this way. Normally when an intercontinental ballistic missile launches, it's traveling on a predictable trajectory. Shooting it down is hard. With our missile defenses, it's like hitting a bullet with a bullet in space, but we can do it. These hypersonic missiles are like a bullet that can maneuver. So it can maneuver left and right, up and down, different altitudes, and importantly, it can maneuver around our radars so that we can't even see them. And what was so alarming about this test is they were able to leave it in orbit. Now, they could do that for an indefinite period of time where it just sits up there until they're ready for it to drop. And then it drops at such speeds, comes crashing down, that it's too fast for our missile defenses. This is a first strike weapon. This is a game changer. And we need a real wake-up call in the White House, but across the United States about what the Chinese under Xi are meaning to do and replacing the United States and threatening the United States. And this thing can take out anything anywhere in the world before we can respond.
That is absolutely right. I've been raising my hand about the threat from communist China for several years now. What do you think is going on here, Congress? Real quick before you go, what is going on? Joe Biden refuses to raise the origins of COVID-19 with Xi Jinping. Every time he speaks with him, it just didn't come up. He rolls over in terms of policy on U.S. China relations, giving Huawei a pass, despite the fact that we know that Huawei has been stealing intellectual property from our country. country, our companies in this country for decades. What is Joe Biden and this administration's motivation? Or are they just inept?
Well, the other thing about the hypersonic missile is it's a culmination, Maria, of 20 years of stealing their way to the top through cyber, through mergers and acquisitions, through research. It's incredibly sophisticated. They've stolen it. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. And in terms of what's motivating it, one, it's a flawed view of the world that if we're just nice enough to our adversaries, we just get them to the negotiating table, they'll be nice back. We saw how that fell apart in Alaska, where we were lectured on American soil by the Chinese Foreign Ministry. But the other piece is this flawed old thinking that eventually they will change, and that, as Jen Psaki just said in response to this first strike weapon, well, we welcome competition. This isn't competition. Right. They are looking to replace us, and this was a huge step in that direction.
Yes, it was. Congressman, it's good to see you. We'll keep checking back with you. We appreciate your time and your service. Michael Waltz joining us this morning.